I want to invest in clean energy, solar, wind and biodiesel.
That sounds smart and fairer than giving our money to those big oil companies. They pollute after all, and yet they got subsidies for years. So to level the playing field and create a pollution-free world, it's just intuitive that solar and wind and biodiesel should get subsidies now. It's only fair. But it's not fair. It's stupid, says the spokeswoman for one of those big bad companies that makes money from the oil business. She's Nancy Pfotenhauer. She works for Koch Industries, owned by those billionaire Koch brothers. You know them, the liberals' current boogeymen. So why is it stupid to make it fair, give subsidies to all this clean energy?
Well, I happen to believe, and we happen to believe, that the government providing subsidies to anybody is a big mistake. They're lousy at it. It's inserting the government into the market where they're choosing winners and losers.
So you're saying this even though your company benefits from some of these subsidies?
And our company would support eliminating all subsidies and lowering the corporate tax rate, for example, accordingly. But
all right, but the oil industry has received subsidies for now. Make it fair. Give these guys a break.
Wind energy has received subsidies since 1992, so you're talking at least 20 years. And I believe that with solar energy, you go back to Carter. So I don't know when, how long is long enough, but particularly when 1992, and they produce less than 2% of our nation's energy for electricity.
Well, they just need a little more help.
A little more
Next
help.
year, they'll.
Well, I'm glad they're not my teenagers, because you'd be paying for them until they were 60 if that were the case.
But isn't there a fairness element that oil companies got so much?
I don't think you layer bad government on top of bad government as an excuse. I think we should clean up the entire tax code.
Get rid of all these subsidies. But just to be clear, my understanding is per kilowatt hour of energy produced, the oil subsidy is something like 1% to 100 that solar and wind get.
Well, the amount of subsidies that have gone into politically correct sources of energy is obscene, and it
in
misallocates
Europe, they're
the
pulling
resource.
back on these things.
They're pulling dramatically back.
They felt ripped off.
Look at Spain, where it cost them 2.2 jobs for every so-called job created, and the price tag was on average, over $700,000 per job created, and those jobs that were created only about 1 in 10 hung around.
All right, so we're in agreement. We should eliminate all subsidies. That's a fair level playing field. But then the politicians wouldn't have people to do favors for to get contributions. And that reminds me of a little company I covered. It's called Serious Materials. It makes windows, and it got unusual attention from some important people.
These workers will now have a new mission, producing some of the most energy-efficient windows in the world.
You're not just churning out windows. You're making some of the most energy-efficient windows in the world.
How many little companies get attention from not just the president and the vice president going to the plant? Their windows were no more energy efficient than other people's windows. Oops, it turned out that one of their executives was married to a high official of the Energy Department who was giving out billions of dollars in subsidies. That's not capitalism, that's crapitalism, crony capitalism.
And I couldn't agree with you more. And frankly, at this point, I think it's a kiss of death if the president or the vice president comes and visits your company. So I'm not sure I'd put him there. But it is true that
it's not just Solandra.
No, there's many other ones. And if you look at places like Beacon Energy, Enter1, other places where they've received a significant amount of taxpayer largesse and had ties to the Obama administration and have given big bonuses to their executives right before they've gone bankrupt, it's really a pretty scary storyline because it's so much rewarding your friends and punishing your enemies.